Imagine making 1.8 million a year in your real estate business. Today we're joined by Steve Ulig, who's going to walk us through how to do it. Let's dive right in. Steve, I really appreciate you hopping on and just being willing to hang out with me. You and I were chatting right before we started recording, but I think you're one of our oldest folks that's been in CCF, not by age by any means, but by length of time. I think we started working together back in fall of 2019.
We did. Yeah.
Why don't you kind of just give rundown? Where were you back then versus what does the business look like now? Gosh, going on 5-6 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I had started out, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is probably the intro for
everyone,
half the people that are in real estate, right? And sort of like you, it sort of pissed me off a little bit because it's not like a how-to, doesn't really teach you how to do much. It's more of a mindset shift book. So from there, that was back in 2017. And I'm like, all right, I got to learn more about real estate. So read books, started going to meetups. And then I'm like, all right, well, why don't I start, trying to get some deals off market here? Because I was trying the MLS and wasn't having any luck there. So I literally grabbed some paper and sat at my kitchen table and literally hand wrote 125 letters to people, put them in the mail, ran maybe 3 appointments, no deals out of it. Obviously, I thought that was a large sample size back then. Little did I know. And I realized that's not scalable. So I was chatting with some people in one of the masterminds I belong to, and they're like, have you heard of this guy, Ryan Dossey? He's actually doing what you're trying to do, but he's actually doing it at scale. So why don't you look into that? So I got into your marketing funnel. That was probably June of 2019 that I first heard about you. Started consuming your content online for, 2-3 months, and then finally reached out. And I'm like, all right, let's get an appointment booked and let's learn more about CCF.
Awesome.
And officially joined in September and never looked back.
What had you done deal wise prior to working with me?
Well, I remember one of your requirements to joining CCF was you had to have done at least one deal.
Yep.
And I just barely made that cutoff because I had done literally one deal. And it was a crappy rental property that I bought through a local wholesaler. I owned it for maybe 3-4 years and turned it over a couple of times. It was more trouble than it was worth. But thanks to, the rising tide in the market over the past few years, after the tenants trashed it, I sold it as is, completely beat up, and probably made a $40,000 profit on it and sold it in worse shape than I bought it in. But I was just, the beneficiary of a rising tide, obviously.
Yeah, I think some of those days might be behind us for a bit. So
yeah,
that's awesome. What does the business look like now? This year or last year, or how many deals have you done since then? Just kind of paint a picture for folks of what's possible in 5 or 6 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as of 2 days ago, we had, including myself, there were 8 people on the team. Unfortunately, just bad timing. We had one person leave us voluntarily. The other person we unfortunately had to terminate. So we're down, it's me and 5 others now. So I do all the marketing, primarily direct mail with Ballpoint. I have an acquisitions manager who runs all of our appointments, makes all of our offers, does all the negotiating. We have a lead manager who basically sets appointments, dispo guy who, when we do sell stuff to investors, he sells those deals for us. He helps build our buyers list. We have a full-time cold caller, and that's all he does is focus on that. And then we have I have a marketing assistant who scrapes public records, just manages our marketing database, and does a handful of other things.
Awesome.
Deal-wise, we're probably closing about 6 per month right now.
Okay.
In order to do that, we're putting about 8 under contract per month because there's always that inevitable attrition factor. You're not going to close all of them, but we close about 6 per month. And we've worked really hard over the past 5 years on building a pretty robust local buyers list. So we still do wholesale quite a bit, but we started to do more wholesales, more light flips. We've started novating properties in the past couple of years. We don't currently hold rentals. We pretty much just, whatever the exit is, we're pretty much selling everything that we put under contract.
Awesome. I love how you just like brush over like, yeah, we're locking up like 96 deals a year. Like that's just like, just this normal thing. So that's stellar, man. Congrats. One thing I want to kind of like pull out of you, because I think you've done a really good job at this, is I feel like you've really focused on the like work, life, family aspect of it. Like there's people doing, 100 deals a year, doing even 12 deals a year that are killing themselves to try to make that happen. And I think it was like a year ago you told me that like, yeah, you're kind of don't have to do a lot of the day to day and you're able to do more family stuff. So what does that look like?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Well, obviously back in the old days, back in 2019, it was literally just me, nobody else. And I remember the first couple of years, just kind of getting it off the ground was really tough. But once you start putting systems in place and you start hiring the right talent to operate those systems, you start to fire yourself from all the jobs that you used to have. And honestly, at this point, I do not need to participate in the day-to-day anymore, just because the team that I have in place knows what they're doing. Like my weekly responsibilities as far as keeping the business running is placing the order for mail. So doing the marketing, reviewing the expenses, doing payroll, and that's about it. Those are like the three things that I, pretty much make myself do every week. So my kids are a little bit older now. They're 12, 10, and 7. When I started in CCF, they were obviously a lot younger. And the work-life balance was, I'd say for the first couple of years, was pretty non-existent. It was just me putting in hours and hours and hours trying to get Guardian Property Solutions off the ground. But, there is that tipping point. If you stick with it long enough and, if you really give it everything you have and you're building it intentionally and you're getting the right advice, it doesn't take very long. It doesn't, it's not like a 10 or 15 year process. You could easily get to where I am in 3, 4, 5 years,
Yeah. Personal question for you that I didn't tell you I was going to hit you with. How has that been for you and Hillary? Just having less of that, you having to put in 60 hours a week?
Well, I'll be honest with you. My wife loves her space. She does not want me around the house all the time. She's a stay-at-home mom. So, but it's been, when we are together, I mean, it's great. She remembers the days of me just sitting in the basement, making phone call after phone call after phone call, early in the morning, middle of the day, late at night, just trying to figure out everything. And it was kind of scary for her because she's like, what is this? Who is Ryan? What are you doing? Yeah. Why aren't you getting a job? Because I just gave it everything I had. I went into it full time, with a little bit of savings, but no real backup plan. But she's grateful. We're both grateful that, I basically have more money now than I've ever made before working at any job. And I've got pretty much most of my time back.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. What does, just roughly, right? I'm not expecting you to like whip out a P&L or anything, but doing, 70 to 80 deals a year, relatively removed from the day to day, what does a typical year look like?
Yeah. So the average spread on our deals, just because we do a mix of wholesaling and wholesales and flips and things, is about 25,000 is our average spread. So you do that, the math, it's 150,000 a month. So I think that works out to 1.8 million in a year, something like that.
Awesome, man. That's stellar.
Yeah. And I use the profit first system. So that's been great for us because it really shows me what I have to operate the business. I pay myself 10% of every deal right now in salary and another 10% in profit distribution. The business survives on 65% of every deal, and then 15% goes to taxes.
Awesome, man. That's stellar. What advice do you have for somebody that's kind of where you were in the, like, they've maybe done a deal or two, they're looking for stuff on the MLS, things really aren't penciling. Knowing what you know now, like, what do you wish you could go back to 2019 Steve and just be like, hey?
Oh, man. Yeah, that's really a good question. Let's just say this, if I had to build it all over again in a new market, the time to where I want to be would have been a lot shorter. It would be a lot shorter just because I didn't know anything back then. I literally didn't know what I didn't know. So if I were going to travel back in time and give advice to my 2019 self, I think I would tell myself probably three things. So one, you're not marketing enough. You need to put more marketing out. So more letters. You think you're marketing enough, but you're not, and you're not doing it consistently. So more marketing and more consistency. I would tell myself to try and figure out if you're just trying to get cash back in. Obviously, wholesaling is the best way to do that, I think. It's certainly the quickest way. Figure out where the deals are actually being done. So try to dial in your zip codes and figure out which lists actually produce as opposed to just mailing everything, which is a good way to burn money. And then I think the fourth thing I'd probably recommend is, Steve, you have no sales experience and you're not very good at sales. Go take a course or get some help as far as like selling. Because even though we think of this as buying, it really is selling. You know what I mean? So I would have definitely recommended, get some help as far as like a sales coach, because I think that would have really made things a lot easier.
It's been really cool, man, just to see your like transition and even just confidence in like what it is you do and how you do it. Just, it's been 5 years, so it's been a long time, but it's been really neat just to see kind of that growth in you. One of the things you hit on that I totally agree with that we've done for years, I like squat on everybody else's lists. So I'll look at like where are our competitors getting deals, and am I in those zip codes or not? And where are people buying? And we found in Indy, when we started doing this, there was one zip code that one of our competitors was doing 5+ deals a month in that we weren't even mailing to. We're like, well, we should probably mail there. You're in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, we are in the suburbs just west of the city. So we don't play inside the city proper. We're pretty much playing in the 4 counties directly outside the city.
What would you say to somebody that's like, oh, this won't work for me because I live in a competitive market? I know people in your market that are, dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars of marketing a month, running really big businesses. You easily could have been like, well, it's too competitive. I can't do it here. How would you respond to somebody that's like, I don't know that there's enough out there for me?
Oh my gosh. I would say just have an abundance mentality. There's more than enough to go around for everybody. If you're using your company's product, you're going to stand out for sure, because most people are doing the cheap pieces. They want to save money and yada, yada. But, if you send a good quality piece with a good, marketing message on it, you'll definitely stand out. So I think competition is actually a good thing, because it just tells you that there's plenty for everybody, You want
to see something funny? Give me a second. Let me grab something. So my dad just got this guy in the mail. You really can't see it super close, but it's basically like a Google Street View postcard. But what's funny with it is this isn't his house. It's not a property he owns. And like the material they used, like the entire house is scraped off on the image. And it's from an out-of-state company. And I was like, that's what you're competing with, mom and dad, if you guys are going to market locally, is people doing that kind of crap. So love that. You touched on, I think, what's been one of my like biggest frustrations in the real estate space. So I'd love for you to expand on it a bit. Real estate investors are some of the only folks I've met that will like market at the same level, but expect their business to grow. I was talking to a friend of mine that works with like a Rolex dealership, and you call a watch a dealership, a retailer, authorized store, whatever. And they're like, when they want more money, their marketing budget goes from 40 to 100K a month. So guys in real estate, I find, will often do this like, well, I'm going to do my 3K a month in marketing, and maybe this month I'll get 10 deals. But it's like they're really hesitant to spend more to make more, which I found really seems to be unique to people in the real estate space. So what feedback do you have on that?
That's a really good question. I don't know why real estate investors think that way. I know that I've certainly fallen into the trap of complacency and just thinking, if I if I just keep the marketing here, maybe, next month I'll magically do more deals. And it just doesn't work that way. I've found that, especially in the past, I don't know, year and a half, things have become a lot more competitive. Interest rates are higher. You have tariffs now. And I don't know about you, but our cost per acquisition has gone up considerably. So we're forced to do even more mail or more marketing now just to sort of maintain. So I don't know, honestly, I don't know why real estate investors fall into that trap, but that's typically the biggest mistake I see people make is when they're going direct to seller is they're not marketing at the level that they should be marketing to do the kind of deals that they want to do. And they're also not being consistent. They'll market, this month and then they'll take next month off because, I've got money back in. And then they're scrambling to, they're restarting the engine in month 3. So, volume and consistency are, I think, even more important than hitting the right list. It's like first, let's make sure that, we're doing it at the right levels and we're consistent. And then we can kind of dial in which lists are working, which ones aren't, and which zips are working and which ones aren't.
I've noticed like the past year and a half, it seems like there's just been a lot more like negativity and pressure in like media in general. So like marketing was really weird around the election. Like we literally had sellers that were like, I'll sell to you if Trump wins. It was like, okay, cool. Nothing I can do with that, I guess, other than wait and see. And then, similarly, like we saw a little bit of a dip when tariffs hit of people again, like what's going to happen? Where's this going to go? One thing we've seen, I don't know if you've seen this, but we've seen like a bunch of old leads resurfacing now wanting to do business. So it's like, it's been almost more challenging to get new people into pipeline, but that pipeline we've built over the years from our follow-up has really served us well of people that like are, hey, I'm ready to go now kind of texts.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Like pulling new business is more expensive, but we've built up a fairly decent backlog of leads over the past 5 years, and we stay in touch with people pretty regularly. Like I'm always harping on the team. I'd rather have you follow up with somebody more often than less often. I'll never fault you for if somebody, gets mad at you and they're like, hey, stop contacting me. You're calling me too much. I'll never fault you for that versus the person that ended up selling to somebody else because we just didn't contact them often enough to check in and see how things are going.
Yeah. We had one of our gals in sold fast. She's newer. She got a couple projects going and, she went and looked at a property. Owner liked her, said she'd follow up with an offer, and then just like, busy waiting on other things. Seller reached back out and was like, I'm interested in doing business with you guys. I just need a number. And she was like, there's no way she's going to take this. It's so low. And threw the lady an offer of $40,000. And lady was like, oh, done. And she was like, I was like afraid to make it. I didn't think it was going to happen. And so she's going to turn around. She's got somebody that wants it for 75. But it was one of those like the seller should never have to follow up with us. We should be the one following up with them.
The burden is never on the seller to get back in touch with us.
What other, advice or tips and tricks do you have? I mean, you're effectively a wealth of knowledge at this point. You've done hundreds of transactions. You've got staff. You've made mistakes. You figured some things out. What other tips and tricks you got for us?
Well, I mean, when it comes to staff, just make sure, you're hiring slow and firing fast. So, really, I take that very seriously. I interview a lot of people. We're always interviewing. I feel like the jobs are always open for us on Indeed. And just in case, you never know when you're going to come across somebody you can't, you just have to make room for in your organization. So I'd say always be hiring and make sure you're doing it very thoughtfully, very slowly. And, if they're not working out, they're not working out, just, cut it within the 90-day probationary period. And I would say when it comes to list pulling, a page out of your playbook is go for the stuff that's harder to get. Everybody pulls from PropStream. Everybody pulls from Deal Machine. Don't get me wrong. Those are valuable sources for deals. That's where the majority of our deals actually come from, is those mass bulk lists. But a lot of the more profitable deals that really, nobody's reaching out to them are the ones that you can pull from county. Every county has a database, and you can either have a VA pull that manually, or you can build bots, like you and I did, where you pretty much automate that process and pull lists weekly, which is what we do. So I would say those are two tidbits of information. So yeah, focus on hiring the right people and focus on getting the data that, nobody's getting.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you use marketing that stands out more, like I know you're doing custom postcards designed for your brand. And then if you're also getting in front of people that aren't on like 12 lists, we ran into that a couple of years ago in CCF with the whole list stacking thing. Like if somebody's on 12 lists, it's probably not a place I even want if it's in that bad a shape. So totally love that. Like get in front of folks other people aren't getting in front of, hit them with something different, and you're going to get different results. That's super solid. If somebody's watching this video, they're in the Philly area and they're like, hey, Steve seems cool. I've got a deal I want help moving, or I want to place some money. Like what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the biggest into social media, but email is always a tried and true way. Best email is suhlig, so SUHLIG at sell2guardian.com.
So Steve, you've been in CCF now for going on 5+ years. You told me you went from one deal to, 6 to 8 a month. Honest question for you. Would you do it again, knowing what you know?
Would I do it again? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. For me, I mean, I know a lot of people work a job and they dabble in real estate part-time, and there's nothing wrong with that. For me, though, I really needed to feel the pressure of having burned the boat and having no way out. In other words, the boat's gone. Now I got to hack my way through the jungle and figure this out. I think if I had given myself an out in the first couple of years, like an easy out, I probably would have taken it, because I did have some moments of weakness where I wanted to give up and throw in the towel. But it was just that knowing that, it was sort of like that do or die mentality that kept me going.
I think all of us have had those moments of like, all right, this is harder than I thought it was going to be.
I'm like, this is really hard. I'm like, you don't want to take, you're not going to take the offer? Why? What's wrong with it?
Well, one of the things I hear pretty often is like, hey man, I followed you for years, and like, maybe it's time that I explore doing it. Like what advice would you give to that person that's been watching content we've been putting out for as long as you and I have been working together?
Oh man, just do it. Just join. I mean, CCF by far, I think, when it comes to real estate, is the best value this day and age. I think it always has been. It's very, very, very reasonably priced compared to other masterminds that you could join. And you get a lot more how-to, a lot more guidance, and a lot more help in CCF. So I think that's where the value comes from.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. I'm going to fish for one more compliment, and then I'll let you go. You're arguably doing a lot of marketing through Ballpoint. It's working out for you. Why don't you kind of tell people like what product you're using, what your experience has been like, any tips or tricks you have there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've always been pretty consistent on your original product, which is just the handwritten letter. We love using that. It's cost per acquisition on those has always been much lower than any other piece we've used. So we still rely a lot on those. We're also using the hybrid letters though now, which, as you know, a little bit cheaper, but still gets that same high open rate that the handwritten letters get. And then we're also still working on developing our own custom postcard sequence right now, branded to our market. And aside from that, we just love the comic sequence that you guys had, that 7-month comic sequence that's always performed very, very well for us.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's that one. When I made it, I was like, this is either going to work or it's not. Like people are either going to like this or they're going to hate it. We had 2 people over the years that tracked down our permit number on the postcards. One lady was extremely upset because she said the African-American woman on it, like her hair was racist. And the comical thing is that art is actually from an African-American woman, was who we bought it from. And then the second person, there's like one of the comic cards looks like Katy Perry, we've been told. And somebody wanted to know why we sent them a postcard with a lady on it wearing lingerie. Like, well, clearly it's a swimsuit, but yeah, that's funny, man. I love that you're still using that.
Yeah. Yeah, we love it.
The hybrid greeting letters, for folks that aren't familiar, we write the outside with pens and then the inside is printed in a font that looks the same. So it kind of gives you like best of both worlds, but really lowers the cost. On our end, like one of the reasons ballpoint's more expensive, we have printed equipment. We can do the same printed pieces everybody can. I can slam out a printed piece in like 2 seconds. A like fully written with pens, like ballpoint piece takes like almost 2 minutes to produce. So the hybrid piece is kind of that like best of both worlds. It's like 30 seconds to do the envelope and then a second to do the inside. So that allows us to charge less for them. So that's kind of why those are cheaper than the ones that are fully written.
Yeah, and if I can just say one more thing, it's just be consistent. Like even if you have you put mail out and you don't get much from it, work your leads, follow up with your leads, and don't stop just because you have a month where maybe you didn't get the results you thought you would get. Just keep going. Just put mail out there every single month. Be consistent.
I would say that, and then I would say like make sure you're going into it proper expectations. I was talking to a woman earlier this week. She was like, hey, my marketing budget's $500 a month. And the market she was in, I was like, I think you're going to have every bit of a cost per acquisition of like 5 to 6K. So you have to be willing to do that $500 a month for 10 or 12 months. And I don't know about you, but like if I had to go to the gym for a year before I looked better, I'd probably give up. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah. Realistic expectations, super important. Every market's different. Some markets, maybe you spend $3,000 for a deal. Other markets, you might need to be at 10.
Yeah. I've worked with a woman in Miami and her cost per acquisition was like 8 or 9. But arguably a deal in Miami, you're making significantly more than what you're making on a deal in Ohio. And even if we look at, a deal in Miami, right? You're going to pay an agent or a wholesaler way more than that to bring you something that actually has some meat on it. So totally agree. Thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're interested in working right alongside Steve, myself, and 100 other entrepreneurs just like him, go to ccfmastermind.com and apply to work with us today.